to Journey Through the Innerverse. I am so
Hey.
excited to be here. Alexis, how are you doing today?
Hello and hello to everybody. I am doing pretty good today. I feel like the energy's just been really relaxed. A
Yeah.
little chaotic, a little energetic, but mostly relaxed. I'm feeling pretty good, which is I'll take it. How are you
Yeah.
feeling today?
Yeah, I was gonna say I love how you said it's been relaxed, but then you also said a little chaotic, which is like so on point because it's still nuts out there.
Mm-hmm.
But the intensity, like the way we're like on kind of like a lower part of that like spectrum, I guess you could say, as far as energy. And I do feel maybe with all the planets in forward motion right now, that's really beneficial, or that's more than likely why we're experiencing the feeling that we are experiencing. If I
For
could actually
sure.
talk. Yeah, so I'm doing pretty good, I feel. Um yeah, first day of my moon cycle, so there's that. But actually, like, it isn't it's chill, and that's all I'm going to say because I don't want to jinx anything here, but for what might come. So it's only day one, so here we are. We already have some friends here. Jay says greeting ladies and everyone. Mary says hello ladies. Yay, both of you have not been here in a while,
I know
live
it's
at
been a
least, and
second.
so I feel like tonight's going to be really special, so thank you for saying hello.
Thank you.
Yeah, let us know how your dream space has been since the full moon in Libra. My dreams have been, thank goddess, they've been pretty like on par for how they normally are, as opposed to the previous couple of weeks where they were just like very anxious for obvious reasons, and then just like nightmarish and all over the place for other reasons. And so I feel with the Libra full moon, it kind of like brought things to some sort of like equilibrium, like it kind of pulled it out of the extremes, and now we're in the center point of, like you said, it's a little bit relaxing. What about your dreams since like the weekend, since that full moon? How have they been?
Wild, I would say they were definitely heavy, um, unnerving. And I'll say that my Libra is in Chiron. I mean, my Chiron is in Libra. So I'll talk about the dream that I had
Oh yeah,
this
yeah,
week
okay.
and how, like, that kind of comes through with Libra's placement with Chiron. So definitely wild, like, definitely heavy,
Yeah,
heavy.
interesting. So for our chat tonight, it's actually part two. So the first part we talked about Chiron and Chiron's impact on our dream space, what its signature or placement in our chart might mean, as well as when the moon comes around once a month with our Chiron placement, how that can impact our dreams as well, and how it will bring these particular like representation of what Chiron means for us personally, how it brings it forth into the dream space, and how we can also even work with that in waking life. So in part one, we talked about Aries through Virgo. And so now we're in part two, and we're going to talk about Libra through Pisces, or with these interactions between Libra through Pisces.
Yep.
And so, yeah, before we get into that, though, I do want to just briefly talk about the cosmic climate. As we just mentioned, there was a full moon in Libra this past weekend, and then the moon moved into Scorpio just shortly after the full moon. And then right after that, at the beginning of, or no, Sunday night, the moon made an opposite or a square, a conflicting connection with Pluto. And so if you were having intense dreams, such as, Alexis, that could be an indication of like that moon and Pluto connection, like something else coming from deep within, and you getting a really intense look at what that might be. And yeah, so the energy specifically this week, I want to speak to what is coming up on Thursday, or no, I'm sorry. Yeah, Thursday. So we're recording this on Wednesday, but Thursday, Mercury and Neptune will have a conjunction in Aries. And then soon after that, on Friday, the moon will also square the nodes, and then the moon will also square Aries or Neptune and Mercury in Aries. So when I say square, essentially that's a point of conflict, a connection that is dynamic and really uncomfortable. And it is a connection that essentially is there to kind of push you out of your comfort zone, whether it be in the way that you act or in the way that you perceive things, like basically within your consciousness, your perception. And so it's interesting that Mercury and Neptune will come together, which can either, it might be either or you probably get a little bit of both, where it might make things really confusing. So there is potential this week for really vivid dreams, really high symbolism, and just kind of maybe even different than what you normally experience. And that might make things confusing. Like the message might be hard to receive through the dreams, or it might be hard to decipher like what the dream might mean. And at the same time, you might also gain some really strong creative energy from that, or like some inspiration might come through your dreams with that Neptune and Mercury, especially as Mercury's direct, still in this post shadow period, but it is moving forward slowly. And so you might gain some like a new perspective and a new sense of purpose with this interaction. And then once the moon comes into this dynamic connection with Neptune and Mercury, we're going to more than likely experience this kind of push to kind of either like let go, right, of what is coming up, or something that is restrictive, because the moon will be in Capricorn when they have this connection. So it's definitely going to highlight some part of vulnerability, or some sort of wall or block that you are having a hard time moving through. Or it could be like speaking your truth and having, just feeling that freedom of speech, and being able to really embrace this new perspective and this new purpose in life that's coming through. So that is essentially the way the astrology is kind of working with the dream space this week. So yeah, did you want to add anything to that? Anything come through for you, Alexis?
No, you covered an amazing amount of information, and I'm going to actually listen to this again after we, put it out there and take notes,
Yeah.
because I feel like it's necessary.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
And of
thank
course,
you.
if you all follow us on Instagram, Journey Through the Interverse, on Instagram, you will see we posted the dates and just like a little blurb of how that can like show up in your dreams. And so you can kind of dig deeper and reflect. And that's only one, possibility out of infinite possibilities in reference to this. So yeah, it could show up in many ways for you. Cool. So we have just two announcements we want to share before we get into the chats tonight. So the first announcement is our monthly Dream Circle. Just want to remind you all that the upcoming Dream Circle is going to be on May 4th. No, May 6th.
Yeah, May
It'll be
6th.
on May
May
6th.
6th.
Yes, May 6th, 8 p.m. Eastern time. The link to register is in the description of this video, or if you're listening on Spotify, it's in the caption notes. So feel free to join us in that circle. It'll be amazing. We share, we heal together, and just come together in community in a sacred space. Yeah. So join us.
Yeah, absolutely. Join us for the Dream Circle. It's always a great time. It's very insightful. I really love how just cool it is to meet up with a bunch of dreamers and widen our perspective and understanding, and then just meet people too. Like, if you've never had a conversation with us, join us, tell us about your dream space, your relationship with dreams, and more. We're super excited, and it's incredibly healing.
Yeah. And the second announcement is Dream Egos. Do you want to share about that, Alexis?
Yeah, sure. Urania and I are now participating with a developing app called Dramigos. That's Dreamigos. You can get it on Google Play Store or on the Apple Store. And it's a really cool developing app where you can go on, you can record your dreams, you can type them up or leave voice messages for yourself. And you also have the opportunity to add them to the Dreamline. You can keep them private, but you can add them to the Dreamline. So it's an open Dreamline where interpreters like Urania and myself can go on and help you to interpret and understand better the dream you might have questions about. It's a really cool app. You know, you'll see us posting our dreams, you'll see us commenting, and a variety of other dream experts as well. But it's really great. So go ahead and download it today and join us.
Yeah. And also, again, if you follow us on Instagram, we share a lot of their content as well. So you can see like what they have going on and whatnot. And also their tag is in our bio on Instagram. So you can like really hop on there and check it out.
Absolutely. It really is neat. Again, just remember it is in development. So there's some things that are going to be faster, better working when the app is fully developed. So if it feels a little slow, give it some patience. It's really good for what it is, and we just love it. So go download it. Join
Check it
us.
out. Awesome. We have Dream Oracle for You is here, and we're actually going to be recording an episode on Dream Oracle for You's podcast. And I'm really looking forward to that. That'll be in a couple weeks. But I'm not sure when they'll actually post it to their profile, but we'll definitely update you all when that happens. And so Dream Oracle for You says, fascinating to hear the astrological perspectives on the dream space. I'm typically a nightly vivid dreamer with easy dream recall, but it's been missing lately. That's changed this week. Oh, I'm glad that's changed. And Alexis and I have that all the time where it just waxes and wanes. And it's
Yeah,
like sometimes it's hard to hold
absolutely.
on to, like day by day sometimes, or sometimes it's like, oh, this week I can't really, I struggle with,
Yeah,
holding on to it.
absolutely. I feel like I messaged you, Urania, a couple days ago, and I was literally like, I am at work all day. I had a crazy dream. I like forgot it because I woke up late, so got really busy really quickly. And then at like 2 p.m., all of it came back to my head, and I didn't have an opportunity to write it down, and it disappeared again. And then at like, I don't know, 12 in the morning, it came back to me, and I sat down and like wrote the whole thing out, and it was there and available, but like that happens. So be patient with yourself. We also have days where we don't remember it all, and that's okay too. Like it happens. We have days where we can see it in our heads, but we can't like translate it to word.
Yeah, we can
Yeah.
feel it.
Yep.
We can draw it too. We can sketch it,
Yep.
which I need to do more of that. That's always fun. Awesome. So welcome. All right. So we're going to get into tonight's content. Again, we're going to go through Chiron's impact on the dream, specifically through the placements of Libra through Pisces. And so we're going to just revisit the mythology of Chiron. But I first want to say, just for you all that are just maybe listening or didn't hear in the first part, that Chiron essentially stays in a sign for 7 to 8 years. And so, yeah, you just check out where Chiron is in your chart. And this in astrology essentially represents where it basically holds the key to healing on a deep soul level. And where Chiron is in your chart will give you an indication of where you might have some wounding, whether that's emotional wounding, physical, maybe it's like a little bit of both, spiritual wounding as well. And more than likely, it's said that this placement, this where Chiron is in that particular wounding, is what is going to really help you to helping others to really basically being in your purpose or executing your purpose and being of service. So I said in the previous chat that Chiron and Virgo somewhat have an affinity to each other as far as being of service, as far as healing, and really kind of digging deep into what is happening within the body, or like I said, emotional wounding and things of that nature, to see what's there at the core and to heal that so that you can move forward with your divine purpose. So as far as Chiron, what it may teach you is it's the pain and the lessons learned will guide you to your divine purpose. And also it teaches you it gives you a broader lesson to learn the value of acceptance and surrender. So that acceptance and surrender was major in the discussions that we were talking about in part 1. So Alexis, do you want to share a bit about the mythology, just revisiting what we didn't cover?
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to say, guys, if you heard last week, I'm so sorry. I didn't write down as much as I knew in my head. And as soon as I saw that like I was missing information on the paper, my mind just went blank, like completely blank. So I do apologize to any listeners who are like, what the hell is she talking about? Like, do you even know what she's talking about? I
Well,
do.
I did put you
It
on the
just
spot. I thought you
disappeared.
had the notes
And
for
you were
that, and I
good. You
put you
like
on the
I
spot.
was like, I'm
And
so
I was
sorry.
like,
And then you went and started talking about it and stuff, but I felt so bad. My brain went blank. I'm not normally that bad, but it hits me randomly. So I'll go right into the mythology of Chiron. So Chiron is a centaur. He is half man, half horse, and he was born to Kronos, who was in the form of a horse, and the nymph Philyra. So he is, because of his half horse, half man centaur ness, he was abandoned by his parents. They didn't want him. But he ended up being raised by two other gods, Apollo and Artemis. And they raised him and taught him music, medicine, hunting, prophecy, and ethics. And he ended up becoming a great teacher, healer, and mentor. He ended up mentoring Greek heroes such as Achilles, Jason, Theseus. I swear I always mess up this name. Heracles.
yeah,
Heracles.
that's right. That's
It's
right.
like it's a hit or miss whether I get that one right. And Perseus, he was known for instilling in his teachings virtue and wisdom. So, where the wounding comes in, not just from the abandonment of his parents, but also like the physical wounding that Chiron acquired in his journey, was that he was accidentally wounded by a shot from Heracles' arrow, and it was poisoned with Hydra's blood.
Yeah,
So he essentially is now in excruciating pain nonstop. But
yeah,
because
chronic
he's
pain.
this chronic pain that was excruciating, but because he was an immortal, he couldn't die. So he suffered for too long. Um, and so, kind of how we get into his next chapter was he was Prometheus, who was punished by Zeus, was against basically had an eagle come and continuously peck at his liver. It was kind of like this death rebirth cycle from Prometheus giving the mortals fire. And Chiron basically willingly sacrificed himself to take his place. Now, because he did this, a lot of the gods found him to have a lot of they found a lot of respect for him for taking this place, and decided to basically grant him the immortality kind of being taken away so he could die and not have to deal with this wound for all of eternity. So he ended up being placed in the sky by Zeus as the constellation Sagittarius. So his legacy is that the wounded healer, with tons of wisdom and tons of sacrifice. I mean, he was strong, but he also just had such a bleeding heart. And one of my favorite uh, mythological creatures, just
Yeah,
an incredible
yeah,
being.
very. Yeah. And so that's where we get those keywords: rejection, wounding, chronic, and also like the healing gifts, because he literally, a lot of us can relate to this if you've had any kind of chronic pain or illness or just dis-ease. Like you try anything you can do. Like, what can I do to like relieve myself of this pain? And so that's how one of the ways in which he became a master of, just like the healing arts, like medicine, essentially. And so the rejection aspect came from in the very beginning, as his mother was essentially like raped by Zeus.
Mm-hmm.
And he came out as half, like he's a demigod, he's half God, human, whatever, human body, human form, but God, and a horse. And his mother was like really terrified of that. And the father couldn't have anything to do with it, maybe if he wanted to, but I don't know if you all are familiar with Hera, but basically his wife wouldn't let him, was really mean to all of his children, right? That's a whole nother story. So, anyways, that rejection is so heavy from the very beginning. And as Alexis mentioned, the wounding, the physical wounding, and then the acceptance and the surrender was at the point of him just accepting, okay, like I'm in chronic pain. Let me just switch places with Prometheus, and like maybe one of us can have some sort of peace.
Yeah, like what
In
does it
that,
matter if I'm
yeah.
in pain anyway?
Right. I'm going to be in pain anyways. I might as well be tied to the rock and like let this eagle eat my liver every day and die, or not die, but it grow back.
Yeah.
But then he ascended, right? And then he was able to ascend that pain and that cycle. And so that whole story essentially is held within the Chiron placement. And so Chiron, when it comes to that emotional wounding, and also there's a connection to family and healing and just trauma that might have come forth from like cycles of generation and ancestral roots or lineage. It is really influential within our dreams, right? Especially as I just feel that a strong connection between Chiron and the moon, where the moon holds memory. The moon is connected to our family lines, essentially, and it might show up as emotional wounding and also the spirituality and things of that nature. So it is really powerful to really reflect on these times where the moon comes into connection with Chiron. And so we already went through, of course, in part one, Aries through Virgo. So if you haven't listened to that, we really encourage you to listen to that afterwards. You don't have to do it in order, of course. But yeah, so we're going to do the same kind of flow we had in part one, where I'll share the anatomy of the signs association. And this is coming from the old school zodiac man that you'll find in a lot of the old medicine books, where there are parts of the body that, as I mentioned, correspond to the different signs. And then, of course, we'll get into the ways in which that might show up in dreams. So we're going to start with Libra. How perfect. Um, because I'm just going to say Alexis has a lot of energy, planets, placements in Libra, as well as Chiron. So I'm excited to hear what you're going to share, especially because Chiron and the moon, or the moon had a conjunction with your Chiron,
Yep.
like after part one. Okay, cool.
Yep. I'm really
All right.
excited. It was definitely like, especially thinking about it, like bringing Chiron to the surface and everything now after having the dreams. I'm like, oh, I'm excited to share this.
Yes. All right. So starting with Libra, it corresponds, as far as the anatomy, to the lower back, the hips, the kidneys, and the endocrines. I think I'm saying that right.
I think so.
Yeah. Endocrine system. Yeah. So what do you have for Libra? For Libra?
So the themes with Chiron and Libra are relationships, harmony, and balance, which I'm sure you would have guessed. Um, so you might dream of relationship conflicts, feeling unbalanced or torn between choices, maybe feeling unable to find peace within social situations. There could also be just recurring imagery of partnerships, old partnerships, new partnerships, fantasy partnerships. But the healing with these dreams might come through as a suggest to heal wounds around partnerships, around your own self-worth, singularly, but also within a relationship, and the need to create balance between your personal needs and other needs. So I'll go right into my dream.
Well, I just want to
that.
share. I'm going to
Oh,
add something
sorry.
onto that.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
no,
yeah,
you're
yeah.
fine. I think I just want to add as far as like with the anatomy too. And this can really go into play with relationships where Libra has a tendency to be very accommodating. They want to essentially keep the peace, keep things
Mm-hmm.
fair. And the easiest, at sometimes seemingly the easiest way to go about that is to just default to the other's needs, right? Or to not
Yep.
necessarily like, be the opposite end of the spectrum, which is Aries, and just like, no, this is what's going down. This is what I'm feeling. This is like, I'm ready to fight for it, right? Libra is kind of the opposite. And I thought it was interesting when I just think about the lower hips, or I'm sorry, the lower back, which is like the base of the spine, and having that root and that strength essentially to speak up for yourself. Like whenever there's anything going on with the base of my spine, I really feel that I'm not like, it's an indicator that I'm not standing up for myself, or that I don't feel secure and grounded within myself and just within my environment.
Yep.
And so I thought that was interesting. So that could be something else that's coming through. And then with the kidneys, I know the kidneys also, I believe, correspond to fear. And so again, it's just like not feeling really secure within maybe yourself, and being able to hold, yourself at high standard, or not high standards, but like at basically high value within relationship. So
Absolutely.
I thought that was really interesting in reference to like the balance, the relationships, and also having a lack of boundaries. Like, so, I mean, they always say grow a backbone, like grow a
Yeah.
spine or whatever. And so I thought that was really interesting with Libra and the lower back, and also just the kidneys and that.
It is really interesting to look at Libra and when things are unbalanced and how it comes through in your health. I mean, like the one of the things that I have happened is like when I'm in a relationship, whether it's a friendship or a like intimate relationship with someone, and I am giving, 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 and my boundaries aren't up, and I'm too afraid to communicate what I need, because the relationship's unbalanced. Things come through. My back hurts. I have migraines. My acne will come through. Like I'll have chronic acne through
Mm-hmm.
bad relationships, bad friendships.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as that person's kind of cut out, and I have like a free, like my a freedom within myself, and I'm able to focus solely on myself, like all of these chronic things clear up.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting bringing that up, like the back pain for sure, but also the other things that I've encountered. It's just very interesting.
Yeah. Awesome. So yeah, what happened in your dream space?
Okay, so this was a really interesting dream space to have. It was a really interesting dream to have, and the more we talk about Libra and the Chiron, the more I'm like thinking about different things. So I'm trying not to dissect the whole thing in my head right now, but basically, a couple nights ago, I had a dream where me, my sister, and my husband were in a store. It felt like kind of like a Claire's Forever 21 mix. And right off the bat, I knew we were somewhere unknown. We weren't anywhere familiar. Everything was totally, totally new and unfamiliar. And we were walking around the store, but like we kept noticing that people were just staring at us and giving us these like glares, almost like death stare glares. Like they know we're not supposed to be there, and they are letting us know that we're not supposed to be there. So feeling uncomfortable, we all decide to kind of like leave because obviously we're not wanted. And we leave the store, we walk down the sidewalk a little bit, and we enter this beautiful huge building. It's like it's red brick on the outside, and when you go in, it's very like industrial. So really, really, really tall ceilings, concrete floor, metal pipes coming through for like aesthetic reasons, but also purposeful reasons. But it had this very cool modern industrial aesthetic to it. And we walk in, and it is a clothing store. And the idea around this particular clothing store where the group of people who owned it were artists, and you would pick a handmade piece of clothing and you would take it to them and they would paint or sew in a design that's personal to them, so everybody gets their own unique piece of clothing. Well, my sister and my husband decided to, they picked out what they wanted, they brought it over to the one of the artists, and they were getting their stuff situated. But while they were doing that, I was circling around the store and I was really paying attention to like the clothing around me. I mean, there was some beautiful like knitted, there was a knitted vest that was like moon and stars and galaxy and mountains, and there was one with like cows on it, and it sounds like cutesy, but it was like, it was cool. And I was just about to pick out what I wanted when I look over, and the day turned to night, and I could no longer see my sister or my husband in the store. And I looked around and I couldn't find anyone. So I went up to the woman and I was like, hey, I'd like to, get this design done. And did you see where these people went? And they basically were like, we're closing. You missed your opportunity. Like, we're not doing this for you. Like, really nasty, like very unwarranted. It was almost like time flew by really quickly, but I was like engulfed in something, so I didn't realize how much time was going by. So I was like, oh, can I just buy this and bring it home like without the design? And they're like, that's not how it works, like you need to leave. So I was like, okay. And I put like back the vest I was gonna get and like walked out the door. And it was really weird because the door that led to outside, it just pushed me into this really long corridor where there were people behind me and people in front of me, like ripped clothes. Like, obviously we were being forced to walk through this. And the corridor, the ceilings were really short, like almost to your head, and it was super narrow, so you really felt claustrophobic. And it was really dirty. There were bugs and rats and everywhere, and the walls were deteriorated. There were doors on the ceilings, and as you were going through this corridor, people, like creatures, were opening the doors on the ceilings to the side of you on either side and trying to like kind of reach out and grab you, but they didn't. It was almost like being in a haunted house where like they're not allowed to touch you.
Yeah. Oh,
So
yeah.
yeah, so I'm walking down and I'm starting to like kind of like get a little bit of panicky because things are starting to feel like they're closing in. And I start, like, I do what I usually do when I'm in a crowd, like going to concerts or whatever. I kind of like duck down a little bit and kind of squeeze my way through the crowd, and I find a door to escape, and I open the door and go outside, close it, and it's nighttime. I'm in this unknown place. I'm like really stressed out because I can't find my sister or my husband, and I'm still somewhere completely unfamiliar where I don't have a phone, I don't have GPS, like I don't know where I am, and I don't know where to go. And then I wake up. And I just thought that was a really interesting dream, especially with the way that the dream people were treating me.
Yeah. How do you think that, like, do you think that highlighted any wounding per se, as far as like
Yeah, I think it
abandonment
brought
or
up
anything like?
a sense of rejection and
Yeah.
abandonment, like the
Yeah.
sense of rejection from the people around me. Like, I'm not doing anything, and you're
Yeah.
bestowing such hatred onto me. Like I'm the worst. Like I'm a villain, or like I'm on TV and they're looking for me to bring in to be arrested or something. So having that like really uncomfortable rejection from everybody that I encounter, and
Mhm.
then the abandonment of like being somewhere with people and they leaving me, like
Right. They just
leaving me where
disappeared. Yeah.
I have no idea. They didn't tell me where they were going. They don't have, like, I don't have, we didn't have phones. Like it was, they just left.
Mm.
And I was just alone, and it was like that sinking heart feeling of like, where do I go, what do I do, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
And it was almost like leading, like feeling those feelings led me to this corridor where I needed to find a way to escape and
Mm.
be free.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's interesting that even at the end, when I escaped, I still like, a part of that was a part of that I was kind of, I don't want to say healed from, but a part of that I was okay. And then
Yeah.
another part of that, it still felt like abandonment. So maybe like the rejection I kind of moved away from, but the abandonment was still there. So it was definitely interesting. And I almost
Yeah. It was
feel
kind of
like,
almost, oh, sorry.
no, I was just gonna say, I almost feel like that kind of represents where I'm at right now, where like
Mm,
I'm feeling more healed from my sense of rejection at this point, but I
mm,
still am having difficulty with the abandonment. And I feel like
yeah.
Chiron aspecting the moon Chiron, the moon aspecting Chiron in my chart really pulled that to the surface.
Yeah. Especially with it being a full moon in Libra. So that's like full
Oh yeah.
illumination, very vivid, very emotionally charged in a way. And I was going to say it feels like it was definitely showcasing your transition from maybe like where you used to be with it, and it definitely gave you a sense of like, okay, this is where I am now regarding this, like even just waking up and having that perspective of, okay, this is how I felt here and this is how I felt here, but then waking up from the dream produced maybe a different perspective or emotion of like realization, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I still feel very sensitive about this particular part, so I know that, okay, I still need to like work on this or like heal it and integrate that. So yeah, I think
Absolutely.
that's a really good example, especially like with your husband and your sister, who are like probably two of the closest people to you, and they were in the dreams, and then they were, out of everyone, like they were the ones to disappear, where it's like,
Yeah.
really? So that definitely makes a lot of sense. All right, so we're going to move on to Scorpio.
Yes.
So Scorpio, as far as its anatomy, is associated with reproductive organs, the pelvis, the urinary bladder, and the rectum. So what do you have there for the themes?
So the themes for this aspect would be transformation, power, intimacy. The dreams like this may include themes of betrayal, of loss, deep emotional pain, particularly in the areas of like trust and intimacy. So, like maybe what you would dream would be maybe walking in on your partner cheating on you, or, um, a friend, a band, doing something to hurt you on purpose where you had a lot of trust in them and they kind of go behind your back and do something. um, there could also be dreams around death, regeneration, hidden secrets, death of family members, death of yourself, rebirth. I feel like the dreams around this would be very interesting and very heavy and deep.
Yeah, definitely very heavy.
The healing messages that would come through would indicate a need to heal deep emotional wounds, possibly related to power struggles, possibly also just unresolved trauma. I know this is probably a placement and an aspect where they might be more nightmare esque,
Mm.
more like reliving trauma and really pulling things that you might have tucked away to the surface. Like, this is your time to really move through this incredibly painful experience so you can let it go to an extent and move forward.
Yeah.
Um, and to encourage you to embrace that transformative power.
Yeah, I definitely see this is probably one of the heaviest ones, because I feel with trauma, I mean, I feel like it's like when it becomes like when it's cellular, I feel like when it's really, really deep in our tissues, in our cells, I feel like that might be an experience for Scorpio, or that's kind of represents the intensity of it. It's like that
Mm-hmm.
deep. So it might take a lot of energy to like pull it out of that deep place. And so, it depends on what phase the moon is too, when it comes forth around to connecting with your Chiron and Scorpio. It might be, I feel like the most intense is probably like a full moon to like a waning gibbous, or like that period of waxing gibbous, full moon, and waning gibbous,
Yep.
because there's like so much pressure, and there's like full illumination, and just like the experience of vivid dreams where it really shines like a spotlight on that grief. And just considering the parts of the body that are associated with Scorpio, which are really vulnerable places that like most of us, like people aren't like, we don't really want people, just to think about the rectum or the reproductive organs. It's like, that's not a place where it's like, the heart or the spine or, that's like not that intense, but those places are kind of hidden and vulnerable and sensitive.
Vulnerable and sensitive.
So yeah,
Yeah.
and so it's like anything to deal with that as far as like trauma or wounding is going to be really, really deeply emotional. And so yeah, there might be, like you said, themes of grief, or even in your dreams, you might like one of the things I noted is that you might have a recurring dream of being submerged in water,
Oh
right?
yeah.
So maybe there is challenges with even releasing your emotions or releasing, or like talking about your trauma, sharing your emotions about what has come up. There might be kind of a pull towards like from like in order to heal, a pull towards sharing about it. Because that's the thing too with Scorpio, is very private energy. And so I can see with Chiron and Scorpio, it being a difficult time and even like sharing that and releasing that, as Scorpio can kind of hold on to things and keep it close to home. So
Yes, absolutely. I would even say that there could be a recurrence of using your trauma as a badge, like kind of to
yeah, like a
signify your
tool.
strength, where like, yes, you are strong, you went through a lot, but there needs to be, you need to tap into that vulnerability and work through those traumas in order to move forward, not stay kind of stuck in wherever that place is.
Yeah. And one of the ways I would say a good remedy just to start, because I don't, my Chiron's not in Scorpio, but Scorpio rising and Capricorn moon, where vulnerability is like a lot, and sharing my emotions has always been a lot, and I've gotten so much better. But one of the best places that I started was in the shower, like, because you have the suppression of the noise, like people of the, shower, people might not hear you. I also love to have conversations with people or to say certain things where I say it in the shower. And then
Yep.
any energy, anything that comes up, I just visualize it going down the drain. I just like release it. I'm like, okay, I'm releasing it. I'm saying to the person, because our consciousness, our mind doesn't like really decipher that, hey, this person isn't really in front of you, unless you're thinking that and you're like, oh, this person is in front of me. Like, just intend that you are speaking to this person, or you are releasing this thing, and you're speaking it aloud and releasing it from your body.
Yep.
And that is just as good as, sharing with someone directly, or, like you're getting it out, right? In some way,
Yep.
you're putting it outside of yourself.
I feel
um
like another really good tactic for this too would be to write a letter to yourself, write a letter
yeah,
to a person, write a letter to the
yeah,
world, whatever it may be. Read it out, or read it out loud or to yourself, and then burn it.
yes, that's what
Just
I was gonna say.
burn it.
Because I was gonna mention writing, but then I was like, well, Scorpios, they don't want that getting out like in that way. So you
Yeah,
said like the keyword, and then burn it
burn
after,
it.
right? And that's a act of like purification
Yeah.
and release as well. So
And with
yeah,
Scorpio, it is representative of the phoenix, that death and
that's a good
rebirth.
point.
So,
Yeah.
there's going to be something really cathartic about watching something that you just created, or let got out of your head and onto paper, burn up into nothing, and just kind of like the breath of fresh air you can take from letting it out.
Yeah. All right, so moving along to Sagittarius. So Sagittarius corresponds to the thighs and the legs, which I think didn't Chiron get wounded in like the thigh or the leg? I'm pretty sure that's like,
I
I think it was. I'm gonna look it up while you're sharing.
Yeah, maybe look that up. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna say whether or not now, because I really, that part I don't know, for real. But the themes with Sagittarius with this is expansion, adventure, and belief systems. So you may dream of feeling trapped or restricted in your beliefs, or longing for freedom. This could also be like physically trapped too. I mean, if you're somebody like, when you think of Sagittarius, adventure is something that comes through. They're not people you can really like hold down. They need to
Mhm.
move. So a dream that could come up through this would be like being stuck in a living room and not being able to go out the door, always being stuck in this one place and not having the experience of adventure and learning and growth. There might be dreams about travel and exploration and searching for meaning, which, adds up. When it comes to the healing messages, though, these dreams might reflect wounds related to your quest pursuits and also for your meaning, freedom. You might not know, you might be curious of like what this all means, like what life means, where to go from here, what if it matters or not. Like there's a lot of questions behind that, so you might have this push to look more into that, kind of get to know yourself better and add your own meaning to life, and go through these experiences so you can gain more wisdom. It could also be about expanding your perspective, and embracing new ways of thinking. So it's a lot that can come out from that. A lot of adventures. Say a lot of
Yeah, I was
a
gonna
lot of
say it
adventure.
really makes sense. And this is why I love how it's all connected. Everything's connected because with Sagittarius, they're always on the move, even with the way, like the modality of the archetype of Sagittarius it's called mutable, which means it's always in movement, such as like Gemini, Pisces, and Virgo. They're always in some sort of motion. And with Sagittarius, they're known as the adventurer. They're known as like being impatient or having a low attention span. It's like kind of a joke with them. But when you think about it, and with Sagittarius, there's always like this drive, this purpose, like this seeking of experience or wisdom. And I think it's so just, again, the synchronicities are beautiful that the anatomy associated with Sagittarius is the thighs and the legs, which is how we move essentially.
Yeah.
Right. And so that wounding, yeah, it might come up as like a lack of drive. Like you just don't really know your purpose. It could be, yeah, one of those experiences where you're just like, I've met people where they're like, I don't know what my purpose is, or I don't really know how to connect with that. So there might be even a disconnection from spirit, from nature,
Yes.
even, as I feel like Sagittarius is very connected to nature. I always felt that, or for a long time, I felt that Sagittarius should also be like an earth sign, because it's just, I feel Sagittarians are always like out in nature and connecting with animals and just being in the wild. They're really good with that. So it feels, I see the fire, but it feels earthy too. And yeah, so you might even have dreams of like themes of being lost. That's like one that came through, as far as like just not knowing your purpose, not having direction. And so you might find those dreams come up also when the moon comes around and really, brings to light or emphasizes, yeah, Sagittarius Chiron placement in the wound that it might represent. And so, and of course, like your physical legs, like you might have physical wounding with the
Yep.
thighs and the legs. And Chiron, yes, the arrow went in his thigh. So I was like, I felt that was where he was wounded. So I just, it's all connected.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So the next one here is Capricorn. So Capricorn anatomy corresponds to the knees, the bones, and the skin.
The themes for Capricorn with this aspect would be ambition, structure, and authority, which isn't a surprise.
Yeah.
So these could involve fears of failure, with authority figures, like having difficulty with authority figures, feeling stuck. There may be dreams of like, climbing mountains or striving for recognition, but feeling exhausted, unsupported, putting a lot of effort into something and not being acknowledged, or, possibly more work related dreams where you're not getting things done, you're doing it, but it's not good enough. Like it's never good enough. You finish a project, you complete something for work, you hand it in, and the freaking boss is just like, this is shit. What did you do? It could also be like that kind of competition for the authoritarian, or for the sense of authority. So butting heads. And when it comes to the healing message, these dreams suggest healing issues related to ambition, fear of not measuring up, or difficulties with authority, comparing yourself to others. And it really encourages a more balanced approach to success and structure, which is really important because the reality of the situation is nobody's perfect. But Capricorn wants to be kind of like, Virgo a little bit, but
Mm-hmm.
different, but similar in that sense. So really acknowledging that perfection is not something that is ever going to be reached, and lowering your expectations for yourself in order to have grace and compassion for what you do, knowing your limits. But yeah, this would be a really interesting placement.
Yeah. If anyone listening, if you have your Chiron and Capricorn, I'd be really curious if you're interested to share how either your dream space kind of reflects this, or maybe, just your life experience in general, or just how maybe this resonated for you in some ways, maybe not. I mean, you really hit the nail on the head. I pretty much had the same notations. And I think also there is, some sort of wounding with boundaries as well, um, where you may overdo it,
Mm-hmm.
where again that's kind of like goes into the vulnerability category. So I'm just thinking about that when I take into consideration bones and skin, where that is boundaries, and it's like a protective, like at least the skin, it's protecting and whole, and protecting our internal things,
Yeah.
or
And the
everything.
skeletal structure is the structure of our entire being. It's
Right,
holding us
yeah,
up.
it's holding us
So,
together, right?
absolutely. And on top
Yeah.
of this, when I think of like the aspect of dreams where you may be climbing a mountain and, you're either exhausted, or on the other hand, the mountain is just either unsustainable, so crumbling as you're trying to go up it, so you're not actually making any movements. Or even think of like a set of stairs, but the stairs are really really big, like building sized
Yeah.
steps. So getting to that next step feels impossible and takes a very long time and a lot of strategy to get to that, because we're only capable of so much with our size and being and what's given to us. So yeah, I'd love to hear dreams around that for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And then one thing I'll note too that I put on here, is that with the Chiron and Capricorn, you may have some wounding in reference to familial type, like wounding with family or cultural type experiences and dreams, as like similar to Cancer, like when we think about that axis, right? Capricorn is the opposite sign of Cancer, and they're the cult signs, essentially, like cult as in culture, as in family,
Mm-hmm.
um and like that inner circle. And so Cancer is also, there's a focus on the inner circle, whether that's their children or whatever it is that they created, in their safe space, their safe circle. And Capricorn is also has that focus as well, but it's more extended, it's a little bit bigger, where the cult, or the inner circle is like this territory, right? And so there might be some sort of wounding, with inclusivity, or feeling, like you belong, essentially. That
Absolutely.
might come up, and that might come up with Aquarius, which is where we're going next. So
That
do
was
you
a
feel
great
pretty
switch.
right? Yeah, do you feel good with Capricorn? I think
Oh
we
yeah,
that
I
was
feel
pretty
completed.
straightforward.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Aquarius, the anatomy associated with Aquarius, are ankles and blood vessels. So that's an
Very
interesting.
interesting. I always am interested by that one because I'm like the ankles. Like I feel as though we underestimate how important the ankles are. They are what connects the legs to the feet, which keeps us our ability to move and walk and whatnot. So it's always funny when I hear that. I'm like, oh yeah, those are actually really important. But with Aquarius, the themes come up are innovation, individuality, and community. So you may dream of feeling disconnected from others or struggling with your own unique identity in a group. So I kind of think of like that the idea of like sheep, right? So all the sheep are moving in one direction, and almost what I would imagine a dream coming through with that placement would be like walking with everybody, looking the same, being the same, and trying to turn around and go your own way, but being something restricting you from kind of going off and being yourself. It could also involve futuristic or unusual situations, being misunderstood with your need for individuality. That could come up in a variety of different ways, especially with that futuristic aspect. Dreaming of more of like a future based city. But maybe it's so overpopulated that there is no individuality. There is no sense of self. But the healing messages that would come through for these would be a signal to heal the sense of isolation or being misunderstood, and encouraging you to embrace your individuality while finding your place in the greater collective.
Yeah. It's interesting. I'm thinking, I wish I knew more about anatomy, in reference to the blood vessels, because I really feel like that could be really significant, where I'm thinking just about oxygen and how that's important to the blood.
Oh yeah.
And I
And even like the
feel that
different
air,
trails of your
yeah,
nervous system, and like how that could represent like being a part of the collective and being a part of
yeah,
everything, like just
yeah.
having I just yeah.
Yeah, it's a really interesting perspective to look at with this. And another point of wounding, which would be similar to Sagittarius, is again like the lack of vision or the lack of purpose.
Yep.
So while Aquarius is like, it is the visionary of the zodiac, with a wounding there could be some blocks to, really connecting to the future, or it could be distorted where it creates anxiety.
Oh,
So then there
sure.
could be a swing into just like really strong anxiety, and that can really dominate your dream space as well. And just fears, there could be fears around just the ability to even channel. When I think about, and this is my own personal perspective of Aquarius, I also feel that they are the mediums. Like they're the channels, like that true archetype of the channels, or of being a channel. And so there could be fears around having that ability. And I do get the sense that with the Chiron placements, it's not a new wounding. This is something that's been carried through from previous lifetimes, or you could say through the family line in some way. And you are that being that is going to clear that, and you're carrying that in, and you're clearing it for, say, that ancestral lineage or that line. And so while maybe in a past life, or maybe you don't believe in past lives, but maybe a family member, an ancestor of the past, got like persecuted or something for like having the visions or speaking of some prophetic dream they experienced, and now you're clearing that, and it's showing up with the Chiron and Aquarius. And so yeah, there can be, again, that theme of being, outcasted and such. So yeah, that
Absolutely. And
feels really
it's funny
strong.
you said the channels, and that immediately took me to the nervous system, like the not the
Yeah.
nervous system, the blood oh my gosh.
Blood vessels.
Blood vessels being
Yeah.
channels. That's
Yeah.
so
Oh
interesting.
yeah. Yeah. And they're like moving throughout the body and everything.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it again, it's all connected. And so yeah, that might be a way in which that is coming through. And with all of these, everything that we discuss in these archetypes and the wounding, this is a really good way to get an idea of like the wounding, and to basically move through it, right? And so just doing a little bit of what you're afraid of, a little, like just stepping into that. And I feel like that is the acceptance, right? Of like, you're like, okay, this is here and I have to move through it, or else it's going to debilitate me, possibly for the rest of my life. And so how do I move through this? I'm going to do the opposite, where I'm going to just share a little bit, or I'm going to speak up for myself, or I'm going to, try to connect with nature a little bit more. So I enjoy that about this.
Absolutely.
All right, so finally, we are at Pisces, and Pisces corresponds to the anatomy associated with Pisces is the feet and some body fluids, which, I mean, again, I got this from the Zodiac Man. I have no idea what they like, what some body fluids, not all.
That's
Like,
so
but they didn't get
suspicious. That's
specific.
so
So I'm like,
sus.
okay. But the feet for sure. Everyone knows like the feet is
Yes,
associated with Pisces. So because we go from the head with Aries and then we make our way to the feet with Pisces. All right. So what
absolutely.
do you have?
So the themes with dreams in Pisces, with the Chiron aspecting, the moon aspecting Chiron in Pisces. Finally gonna get that. Spirituality, dreams, compassion, deep emotions. So dreams could be deeply emotional, containing themes of escape, confusion, and a sense of being lost. You might dream of mystical experiences or overwhelming compassion. So something that comes to mind with this, especially with like the spiritual aspect of Pisces, when I think of like that Chiron aspect with the moon, I think of, maybe not being able to receive those messages.
Mm.
So, being in a dream where there are images or experiences coming through, but you're not able to comprehend what is happening. Therefore, you are not able to get the message, and feeling like restricted from translation almost, in an emotional sense, rather than like a verbal. So the healing message that comes with these dreams might highlight the need to heal spiritual wounds, or the tendency to lose oneself in fantasy, victimhood, suggesting a return to grounded spirituality and self compassion.
Yeah. The grounded is the biggest one, especially with the feet.
Oh, for
It's
sure.
like, because, with Pisces, it is essentially that mutable air, or it's just like, it's air. No, I'm sorry, water. What am I talking about? Mutable water. So it's water that's just like boundless, basically. And even whenever you try to describe Pisces in general, it's like always hard to put it into words. It's always a feeling, it's always an energy. And so having some sort of container for Pisces is so essential. And so that connection with the feet is literally every time I think about like a spiritual, like if I'm in a spiritual practice, whether it's meditation or like, I don't know. Yeah, I think mainly with meditation, or if you're channeling or anything like that, it's like put your feet on the ground. Always remember to put your feet on the ground, because yeah, it's just that will really give you a sense of where you are. Because that could be a thing too with Pisces. Again, it's hard to contain that energy, so there is the lack of boundaries that comes with the wounding. There is like the ungrounded nature, and even the disconnection from spirit, right? And so that is kind of that lost component of like, I don't feel grounded, I don't know where I am. But it's a different type of not feeling grounded, say with Taurus or Capricorn or Virgo. It's more so like, I don't feel the connection to who it is that I am, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's like, where am I? Like, so again, that feeling of lost. And so, yeah, I see also with Pisces, there is probably a tendency to have the lucid dreams, like when Chiron comes around, and just kind of always having that in between experience within your dreams, where it's like, okay, was I dreaming? Was I awake? Like, I don't know why sleepwalking came to mind with this, especially with the feet and just like
Yeah.
being disoriented, like the confusion within dreams, which can also be a reflection of confusion in your waking life. If that's like a wounding, where Pisces can also have like a lack of direction, because but I feel like the lack of direction is primarily like disconnected with spirit, like
Yeah.
for whatever reason. So yeah, that's something that could really be a thing for Pisces
I
with
feel
the,
like oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say too, I feel like with the victimhood, when you're lost in your own thoughts and
Mm,
feelings, you can often not pick up on what you may be doing to other people, only what you're receiving from them because of it. And I feel like that grounding is really important for perspective too, to kind of like
yeah,
get in tune with the people around you and really listen and really be there, present. Try to be present
yeah,
in what's going on and not, you know, be lifted in a
yeah.
fluid state. Like really be aware of what is going
Surroundings,
on.
yeah.
Yeah,
Aware of
what
everything pretty much, like your own energy. I think that's a thing with Pisces, that they will take on people's energy and probably the energy of the environment. So just being aware of your surroundings. Like, this is my energy, this is their energy. This is like, it's like needing feet to ground, like needing some sort of touch in of reality,
yes.
because there's such a strong connection to spirit and those type of, energies, where it's like you really can, get lost. And yeah, so, and that's could be the tendency to, like, as far as escapism, if you're not like liking your reality too, there might be a tendency to escape. So
Yep. So you're not actually dealing with the stuff in
yeah,
this plane of
you're
existence.
just like an avatar. Like, that happens to me a lot with just my Pisces signatures, where I'm like, I'm here but I'm not here.
Yep.
Like, you
I
see my
completely
body but like
understand
I'm
that.
not here. I'm out.
Absolutely. And I feel that way too. Like I have Saturn in Pisces, but all of like I have so many planets in the 12th house that energy, even though it's not quite as fluid, it's definitely pulls me away sometimes. And you really need to be present and recognize that you can go off in your dreams and your daydreams
Right.
and sleep dreams. I mean, it's a great
Yeah.
escape, but you also have to think about time is still passing in reality.
Yeah.
Time is still moving. There are relationships to uphold and things within yourself that you need to work on. And continuously going to this escapism is going to hold you back while the rest of the world grows and moves on past you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know
So
that I
those,
went really deep with that right there, but it's true. Like
no, it's
if
so
you're
perfect. Yeah.
somewhere else and you're not finding that balance and you're not, taking accountability for your actions and acknowledging what you're doing and what's coming through and really finding that harmony in your reality,
Yeah.
things are going to pass you by. You're going to lose friends, you're going to lose opportunities because everything is you're just somewhere else.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, you might have those dreams where, maybe you can't find your way back. It might be kind of like I feel like with the way that Chiron and moon dreams it can really induce anxious dreamings
Oh,
by
for sure.
default, because it's pulling up the things that we are usually not wanting to look at, or we have some anxiety around it already because it's a chronic thing in our life, and it's something that we're in the process of healing. Or maybe, some of us like don't want to deal with it, and that could be very anxious as well. And so, yeah, I mean, it could be, maybe you're always lost and, or not wanting to, maybe you have a dream of not wanting to come, maybe you want to go away, and then you wake up and you're like, wow, maybe that hit some sort of emotional strings, and you're just like, yeah, I don't want to be here. I mean, wow, I'm going off.
No,
Like,
no, no, but
but you get what I'm
that's really
saying. Yeah.
important because that gives you an opportunity to sit down and ask yourself questions like, why don't I want to be here? What is difficult right now that's keeping me far away?
Yeah.
What will really bring me back down and what will help me be grounded is very,
Yeah.
very important.
Yeah, because those dreams with Pisces, they can be very highly vivid and
Oh yeah.
mystical, where it's so much fun, and then you wake up and you're like, oh, all
Yeah.
right, I guess I'm doing this today. So yeah,
Ooh,
I feel like we did a really good job on this. You guys have
I
to let us
loved
know
this.
how you felt about this. We love doing the astrology and dreams topics. It's really nice to see, like, to integrate these two disciplines. There's a really great question that Jace has asked here in the comments. So Jay says, so far, I get pretty much all of these. And I'll mention, Jace said that his Chiron is in Taurus. Then I checked and affirmed. I was like, yep, your Chiron is in Taurus. So then he follows this with this question. So far I get pretty much all of these. So does Chiron being in a specific sign in your birth chart mean that you would have more of those types of dreams during the period of Chiron? So yes, basically the way we are sharing, or what we're sharing here, is that when the moon comes around to your Chiron, it will more than likely, or there's a high potential that it will generate these specific dreams, these types of
Yep.
dreams, based on the sign that Chiron is in, right? And so, Jace, I know you have an Aquarius rising and a Pisces moon. So that would make sense why you probably resonated with Aquarius and Pisces and maybe other things depending on your chart. Alexis resonates with, things that we've shared. I do too. So, if you have your big three in one of these signs, like, that's probably playing a role, especially if it's your whatever your
Absolutely.
rising sign is, as that is pertaining to the physical body and just how you navigate, and move through your life. Yeah, there's so many factors that go into play
Oh, absolutely.
with this. Yeah, like
And
you like
I was just gonna say, like with me, like the moon was just in its full phase in Libra. My Chiron is in Libra. So the moon was aspecting my Chiron placement. So really paying attention to, a couple days before, a couple days after, and how these themes have come through during that period. So Jace, I would say, pay attention to the moon phase when it's in, or the moon sign when it's in Taurus, where your Chiron is, and keep note of what kind of dreams come through with that. If you watch our previous episode, that's one of the first ones we do. But yeah, definitely pay attention with that cycle and see how your dreams relate.
Yeah, and it's easy to keep track with it because the moon moves through every single sign every month. And so, instead of waiting, 50 years until Chiron comes back to where
Yes,
Chiron was, when you were born, which is a very transformative experience. But you can keep track of, like, what's going on with your moon, in reference to, or what's going on with your Chiron placement in reference to when the moon shows up there once a month. Wow. My mind was going off to, like, my Chiron placement, and I was going to
I
say
feel like I've been
about that.
flubbing up words all night.
My
But no,
mind was
I
just all
agree
over the
with you,
place.
Jace. I feel I have dreams about, from Aries to Pisces, I have dreams with those themes in it, but it's very specifically, very specific with
Yeah.
the Chiron when that moon hits where my Chiron is, what is
Yeah.
coming through.
Yeah. It's really fascinating. I resonated with a bit of the Scorpio too.
Oh yeah.
Mainly with my Chiron is in Gemini in the eighth house, and the eighth house does have affinities with Scorpio. And so I really kind of felt a bit of that, like the hiddenness and the deep, like, yeah, I felt
Oh,
that.
for
And so,
sure. For
yeah,
sure. And the Pisces too. Like my Chiron is in the 12th house in Libra.
mhm.
So where, the relationship aspects are coming through, there were also aspects of Pisces coming through. So.
Yeah. And even in your dream, like with the 12th house, it is like in between worlds, so to speak. And so you being in, like, a different place, like a different dimension or another place,
Yeah,
like possibly astral travel, and then moving through, like, this, like, tunnel or whatever it was, like this pathway. But that all felt to me like not necessarily the void, but traveling through, like, different worlds, which is definitely like
absolutely.
a 12th house
Like a bridge.
correspondent. Yeah. And so that felt like, and your Chiron's placement is in the 12th house. So that
Yep.
definitely, you know, fit that. So you can even dig deeper to like, okay, what area of life is my Chiron placement in? And that will give you a deeper layer in reference to what we said as well here. So just peeling back all the layers, it's
It's
so
very complex.
it gets deep. It gets really deep, and it's like it gets so profound, and you're just like, I could do this for hours, forever. So, but we're at the end of our time.
Yes.
So thank you everyone for being here. Please like this video if you enjoy this. Please
Oh,
subscribe,
Urania,
follow.
your
Yeah.
class.
Oh yeah. We have one more announcement. I forgot. So May 4th, I am teaching a lucid dreaming 101 class. And essentially, I'm going to teach you the basics of how to induce a lucid dream. We'll talk about lucid dreams. But what I really want to focus on is what you do after the lucid dream. I feel a lot of us, or a lot of people that I connect with, we have a lot of recorded dreams and experience with the dream. And then maybe we're not so great about moving forward with the guidance. And like lucid dreams are really lively and intense, and there's just a lot going on, just even the emotions around like, wow, I had a lucid dream. And so I feel a lot of the times we get caught up in that as well, and maybe not really fully integrate it or embody the message or follow the guidance of that dream, or even reflect on it in a way that's like, what do you take away from it? And
Yeah.
so that's what I'm really going to be focusing on this lucid dreaming class. So you'll learn the basics, but if you have experiences with lucid dreaming, definitely join us, because I want to discuss on how to really embody the dream and integrate it and move forward with the messages. So that is on May 4th. It's an online class, and you can sign up via the link in the description of this video. So yeah, that's it. Next week, we're going to have our monthly dark moon dream reflections episode. So we'll talk about our dream space, how that's been since that Aries solar eclipse. We would love to hear about your dreams. So feel free to share your dreams with us. You can email us at theinnerversepodcast@gmail.com. And the information for that is, of course, in the description of this video. You can share with us on Instagram as well. Yeah, so I think that's everything.
I think so too.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone. We hope to see you next week. And yeah, have sweet dreams.